So what I wanted to do here is have a discussion about the conflict that emerged leading to Deadpool and Wolverine fighting for the first time. And the reason for this is because, if I'm going to be honest with you all, the fight's actually pretty awesome. So the conflict between Wolverine and Deadpool actually has its roots in a couple of different characters, the first being a woman named Sable. While she isn't necessarily an integral part of this story, she is important for why Deadpool and Wolverine fight in the first place. With Deadpool established in our previous videos as having been hired by the son of Cable to kill Cable, following this failed attempt, Deadpool maintained his role as a mercenary. While various stories after his first appearance in New Mutants issue number 98 had Marvel throwing him into popular publications like Avengers and X-Men in an effort to both find a place for him, as well as expose readers to his character, the escapades that Deadpool was involved in led him to issue number 23 of Silver Sable and the Wild Pack. Trained by her father to become an expert in almost all forms of hand-to-hand combat, Silver Sable's involvement in the Wild Pack was very similar to the TV show The A-Team, in that they were effectively a group that could be hired to carry out requests from almost anyone as long as they were willing to pay. As a result, the actions of the Silver Sable and Wild Pack drew the attention of an organization called the Genesis Coalition. As a clandestine group not unlike Hydra and occasionally coming into conflict with both Hydra and the Wild Pack, and while only appearing about 21 times in Marvel Comics between Silver Sable issues 6 through 27, in issue number 23, the Genesis Coalition had hired Deadpool to kill Silver Sable. Engaging the Wild Pack in the streets of New York and taking the fight to the sewers, the group was eventually joined by Daredevil. After a battle between Daredevil and Deadpool, Wade's actually defeated, but appears to have been offered a sum of money by Silver Sable to simply walk away from the Genesis Coalition's contract. Now, while this isn't explicitly stated initially, once the story transitions away from Deadpool and Silver Sable's back amongst the Wild Pack, she reveals that she had actually paid Deadpool 3 times the amount the Genesis Coalition was paying him in order to drop the contract, and to even go as far as to keep him on retainer, which basically meant that she had hired him. Now, the other half of this equation is Wolverine. The fight between himself and Deadpool takes place in Wolverine Volume 1, issue number 88. And with these stories being part of a larger story arc, but each issue being self-contained, meaning that they can be read on their own, Wolverine's actually heading to meet a person named Garrison Kane. Like Silver Sable, Kane's not really important for this story, but he does need a little bit of explanation here. The reason why is that as a former member of Cable's team called Six Pack, which consisted of a ragtag group of military personnel, Kane had actually defected. The reason why isn't important for this video, but what is important is that at some point he almost died, but was surgically altered and became a cyborg, resulting in metallic arms and legs, giving him some strength and speed that was beyond what he had previously had. Furthermore, as we discussed in one of my original Deadpool videos, prior to the onset of his cancer, his encounter, and subsequent experimentation at the hands of Weapon X, which turned him into Deadpool, Wade Wilson had been in a relationship with a woman named Vanessa Carlyle. While Vanessa Carlyle would go on to undertake the name Copycat and fall into the life of a mercenary as well, the road that she had set herself on in becoming a mercenary eventually led her to engaging in a relationship with Garrison Kane. And so all of these subplots eventually come to a head as we pick up with issue number 88 and the first fight to ever take place between Deadpool and Wolverine. So the encounter between Deadpool and Wolverine is a perfect example of hitting the ground running. Returning from a trip to the fictional country of Madripoor alongside Gambit in issue number 87, Wolverine finds himself stopping in San Francisco in order to check up on Garrison Kane to ensure that everything is on the up and up. After realizing that Kane's apartment has been broken into, Wolverine enters only to encounter Deadpool. With this story taking place prior to Joe Kelly's revamp of the character as comedic rather than serious, this version of Deadpool is both violent and cunning. Immediately opening fire on Wolverine, Logan reveals that while he is aware of the Deadpool name, that he's never actually met him before. On the other side of this coin, Deadpool's arrival at Garrison Kane's apartment is due to the fact that he's looking for Vanessa. The reason for this being that following his hiring by Silver Sable and his failure to kill her, his motives as an assassin, or perhaps his ability to be an effective mercenary, had basically been called into question. And so what he was looking to do was to meet with Vanessa and perhaps find some way to reestablish himself as being capable. But while the initial confrontation between Wolverine and Deadpool is short and that it's only a couple pages long, this 2-page fight is perhaps the most brutal the two had engaged in. While neither will really answer the questions of the other and spend most of their time simply throwing out one-liners, what I'd like you to do here is pay special attention to Deadpool. The reason why is because his jabs and comments to Wolverine are elements that Joe Kelly kept when he took over the title. And so for those of you who may have read a Deadpool comic in your time, this is the reason why his method of speech seems so familiar here. However, after stabbing Wolverine through the back and puncturing his heart and lungs, Deadpool departs, realizing that Garrison, Kane, and Vanessa appear to be at a play rehearsal. Following this, we learn that where normally Wolverine would have been able to heal almost as fast as Deadpool, this story actually takes place after the events of Fatal Attractions, when Wolverine's adamantium had been ripped out of his body by Magneto. During this story, his healing factor was pushed to its limits and burned out for a time. But as he progressed towards issue number 88 in his solo series, his healing factor had returned, but it's still a little slower than it used to be. Now realizing that Deadpool is pursuing Garrison, Kane, and Copycat at their play, Wolverine manages to hail a cab in order to arrive and try to save them. Transitioning back to Deadpool, we find that he has arrived and is currently encountering Kane, providing a bit of banter and touching on his first appearance with New Mutants issue number 98 when he fought Kane in order to get to Cable. Deadpool taunts him a bit in stating that he hopes his fighting skills have improved. Now Kane himself doesn't seem to want to fight in this situation. Whether this is because of his previous encounter with Deadpool or not is unknown, but he simply tells Deadpool that he needs to leave, at which point Deadpool makes it known that he's here for Vanessa. Continuing with their skirmish, Kane states that whatever existed between Vanessa and Deadpool is over. Now there is a little backstory to this involving the origin of Deadpool, which is covered in a separate video, but Kane's intention along with Vanessa is to basically leave their mercenary lives behind and start over, which is the reason why they live in San Francisco at the moment. And so as the battle continues, Deadpool uses a flashbang of sorts to temporarily blind Kane and give himself the upper hand. At this point, Copycat joins the fray, but as a rather inexperienced mercenary whose ability is kin to Mystique but more enhanced in that she can copy powers in addition to physical appearances, she does what she can against Deadpool, but just doesn't have the physical prowess necessary to overcome his fighting technique or his healing factor. With Vanessa down and turning his attention back to Kane, Deadpool forces him to basically make a choice. If he truly loves Vanessa and would do anything for her, he can either stop the sword that will be thrown at Vanessa or he can stop the sword that will land in his head. Lunging towards Kane and throwing the sword at Vanessa, who sits behind him, the group is met with the arrival of Wolverine. Smashing into the building and knocking the sword out of the way before it can hit Vanessa, who's basically too weak to move following her skirmish with Deadpool, the entire group turns their attention to Wade. However, with Deadpool's healing factor returned to him combined with Garrison Kane's fighting skills and whatever Vanessa can do, Deadpool realizes that the deck is basically stacked against him. Throwing a grenade as a distraction, he simply bails out, bringing the entire conflict to an end. So following this story, Marvel's attempt to give Deadpool more exposure to readers and hopefully beef up the popularity of his character turned out to be a monumental success. With Wolverine being one of the most popular characters they had at the time, seeing him come face to face with a mercenary that could best him immediately caught the attention of fans. With his own series titled The Circle Chase having already been established in 1993, this story set the stage for everything coming after, including appearances in Avengers Volume 1, issue number 366, Secret Wars Part 2, as well as Joe Kelly's run in 1997 and an eventual grudge match with Wolverine and Cable and Deadpool issue number 43. With that being said, we're going to bring this video to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.